think I've always enjoyed trying to do things that maybe seem a step too far, and that's always kind of been the sort of thing for me.
Jon's story isn't just about winning the hardest foot races on the planet. It's about coming back from being told that you're never going to run again. It's about identity and what it takes to rebuild, the strategies behind endurance and the mindset lessons that apply, and that can be whether you're aiming to run ultramarathons or simply show up as a better version of yourself.
Training's great in many ways. I look back on it fondly, but at times you're like, this is bloody awful. Going in for me was more difficult because...
We met for this one fresh after his 400-kilometre ultramarathon in the Gobi Desert, a race which is the first of its kind in China.
I was old enough and smart enough to know that if I went out there without my senses, one wrong punch thrown or taken, I could either be in jail or dead.
So I'm going to stop you there, mate. You have to tell me about some of these stories. This will be raw and it will be deep. Let's get into it. Jon.
Hi.
How are you, mate?
I'm all right, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. Mate, what you do is not normal.
I've often been told that, to be fair. I'm not really a normal person.
Well, when you strip all that back, like, where do you think it actually comes from?
To be fair, I could correct you there. I see myself as normal. Other people don't. But, you know, I see other people as weird. I think I've always liked a challenge, always enjoyed trying to do things that maybe seem like they're difficult or maybe a step too far, but you don't know until you try. And that's always kind of been the sort of thing for me. Am I capable of doing this? Set targets, set goals. It then sort of motivates me to do other things, which initially it was all about sort of a goal to motivate myself to then go and do something, whereas that obviously changes a little bit over time, but that was the underlying thing was, well, there's a goal. Can I do it? Am I capable of it? Let's find out.
When you say always, like, how far back? You say you've always liked a challenge. Like, where does it actually, like, where's the roots of it?
I think my mum first described it when I was about 3 years old at nursery, refusing to take a jacket off for like the head teacher who was coming around trying to show the new sort of like little school shirts that we had on, and I was like very difficult and refused to do that. So that's probably like the difficult side of me has always been there in the past, and yeah, probably not the easiest of children. But then, yeah, I think it's just probably transferred through. I usually dig my heels in if I don't want to do something. Yeah. I'm very good at not doing it. But then equally, if I really enjoy something or I'm passionate about it, then I'm all in on it. And I think it's kind of all or nothing is probably a very good sort of phrase with me. But yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, mate, you might not remember this, but we first met in the acclimatisation days in Namibia before the Desert Ultra last year.
Yep.
Your bag didn't arrive. You might, and as we bumped into you. You were on the way to the mall, I think, to get some gear. I didn't know who you were at that time, and as we exchanged pleasantries and then moved on, the guys that I always were like, "That's Jon Shields. That's Jon Shields. He's going to win this." Mm-hmm. So, how does that feel now when you get to a point where you've got to a level where you're turning up to these like ridiculous races? And there's a level of expectation now on you to perform. Like, how does that make you feel now?
It's quite nice in a way. I don't really read too much into it because I kind of feel like I'm always doing it for myself or for family. You know, now it's turned into what was a hobby and just a passion is now actually a business as well, with the coaching side of things, the headwear. Being sponsored, I've got a certain amount of responsibilities to different areas of my life, I guess, and I think you get results, you work hard, you get some good results, you keep working hard, it kind of inspires you to then do a little bit more, and then obviously you do get the downsides to these races and things do happen, but yeah, when we were obviously in Namibia, the people won't know possibly, but the first time I went out to Namibia, I had diarrhea and vomiting. So although I started the race, did the first stage with some vomiting and with some diarrhea whilst en route, and I won the first stage, not my finest run, granted.
Yeah.
And then I got to camp, and felt okay, sat up in the sleeping bag started before day 2 and just felt horrific, and proceeded to not be able to run, walked and collapsed in the middle of the desert. I didn't want to quit. And, I was hoping it would pass, but I'd had that much anti-sickness and it just wasn't. And eventually. So I had to then sit it out, the disappointment of that. Well, I can't remember. I was in a tent comatose because they wanted to evacuate me, but I was having none of that out there. But then obviously I had to come back and set the record straight and do what I knew was possible to do. But when you travel to all these countries where things like food, you're traveling, you're around a lot of other people, these things are going to happen. And unfortunately it's happened a little bit too often for my liking, different things. But on the way back from Kenya the other week now, on my final flight back, I'd had some food in the airport in a lounge, should have been okay, Abu Dhabi, and I was having a vomiting bug all the way on the final flight back. So you've just got to be so careful. I mean, I can take my own food to races, but there's only so much you can carry on you, so much you can do before, if you're unlucky, you're unlucky. And that's part of the ultrarunning game, whether you twist an ankle, whether you eat something dodgy, whether you get bitten by something, stung by something, there's so many things that can go wrong that you can't always say, I'm going to go and win this, because at some point you won't, you'll have some bad luck. And that's kind of like, I had a relatively good run of form and luck, and, nothing really went wrong. And then something did go wrong, and you've got to deal with that. And it was hard to deal with, but you just have to do it.
It's not just an A to B event, is it? There's so much more to it than that. And when you talk about the sort of the external environment now that you've got around you, so you've pivoted a little bit from this being a hobby into being a profession. Does that come with extra added pressure then, do you think, when you're turning up to these events, and it's less about the experience and more about the performance?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't really care what anyone thinks. Yeah. I mean, for me, as long as I can pay the mortgage, the bills, that's my goal. So anything else doesn't really matter. Obviously, I want to do myself proud and everyone else proud that supports me. I want to put on a good performance. But do I worry? For example, Montaigne, who sponsor me, they're great with me. Do I worry if I don't put a performance on for them? Not really, because, they understand that sometimes things won't go to plan, but, I'm a good ambassador for them. Yeah. I do the right things. I do get good races. I have good races, good performances, but at the same time as well with the brand, and I think the way I conduct myself, it's a good mutual partnership, and sometimes things won't be right, other times they will. So I don't really worry about that, because they're good, and the same with the other brands that I'm with. They kind of understand that things don't always go to plan. Obviously, if I started not finishing all my races and the performances massively dropped off, then I'd worry a little bit more, but then I probably wouldn't be enjoying it as much if that was the case. I love the process. I love training. I love being fit, healthy, and mentally I feel great if I've had a workout and a good workout, and that the training has been more important to me than the actual racing. The racing's like an opportunity to display what you've worked for, really. So it's kind of like the icing on the cake, whereas the turning up, I never bother. When I turn up, it's kind of like, I can go and do this now. Yes, I've been looking forward to this. I hate the week before tapering, where you're not doing as much, because I always want to be doing something. Yeah. And I think I have gradually changed that mindset where I kind of enjoy it a little bit, the tapering, and actually, go a little bit easier on myself, because I'm my own hardest sort of critic, and, I'll analyse all sorts from the races. How was my nutrition? How's my footwear? How was my time in checkpoint? Did I do something wrong? Did I do something right? What was the benefit of it? Was I fueling enough? Was I, did I sort my feet? Did I, what went right? What went wrong? What can I improve on? There's always something, even if I had the perfect race, which I've not had yet. I'm kind of still hoping.
Doesn't exist, mate.
There's going to be one. There's going to be one. I'm going to have a little purple patch, I tell you, coming up this next year. But, you know, there's always things you can improve on. And I think as long as you always look like that, then you're always going to strive to be better and make improvements and learn.
Yeah.
And it is a game where you learn. You can't just all of a sudden turn up and be, I'm the best, I'm great. You know, you'll fall flat on your face if you do that. So it's always a massive learning curve, and I say that with my clients, that you have to go and do some races. I can give you all the advice, whether it's nutrition, training, whatever, but until you do a race, until you realise, you know, what a checkpoint is when you go in, get into the checkpoint, how to not faff around so much, leaving the checkpoint, checking your feet, how's your nutrition, if you're drunk enough, you know, until you do that in those sort of scenarios, you don't realise quite what it is. It's a learning from experience, and you know, everyone still does that, and you continue to do it, but it's obviously a steeper learning curve at the start. I mean, I remember when I started out, and it was like turning up after working my medical job, doing a night shift, and I thought I was going to go and do this 2-day multi-stage race. And I was like, right, where's the path? Where's the route? It was like, it's off up over there somewhere. There's no, here's your map. Here's your compass. Like, there's no path. It's just off that way somewhere. And it's that steep. And I'd been running on a canal with my dogs. And that's, you know, first thing, shock to that. And then mile 26 or mile 24, been out for bloody hours in Snowdonia. And my knee locked up just because I wasn't conditioned to do it. Yeah. But I learned so much from it. I was like, right, I need to get good at this. How am I going to improve on that? Oh, I need to hike as well. It's not just a running thing, this. You actually, hiking's a skill, which a lot of people don't understand, that you know, get fit by being a runner. Well, it's great, but in ultras, you do a hell of a lot of hiking. So you've got to have a strong hike on you as well. So, yeah, it's really kind of there's so much to consider.
You've got to fuck around to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that feedback is what you learn from, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, and it is completely it. It is fuck around and find out, and often that's been the case.
That's how you prescribe client plans, presumably.
A lot of the time, I do. Yeah. Well, clients will be doing something when they come to you because they're already interested in it. They are, you know, they have a goal, whether it's a 50k in the UK or whether it's a multi-stage in Kyrgyzstan, the jungle, all the kind of places, whatever I've been to. And I get a lot of clients that are going to these places because they know I've done it and done it well generally. But, you know, it could be UTMB, it could be all these different things. But they already do some type of training because obviously you don't just go and sign up to something without any kind of training really on that scale. You'd usually be doing a 5k, catch 5k, take it, whatever. So I think when you get them coming on board, there's a level of training. It's just what level that's at, how much volume they've been doing, how much strength work they've been doing. Do they do any strength work, or do they just someone that just runs and they run a flat 5k loop and they've done that 4 or 5 times a week for however long, but then now they've signed up for this multi-stage which has 10,000 meters of vertical gain, and they've never run even 500 meters of vert in a week. So all of a sudden you've got to go, well, actually you need to add some strength work into this because your body's not going to cope with that. You'll break. And then, well, you're not running enough. You're not doing enough volume. You're not doing enough hills. There's the ascent, but everyone always forgets the descent as well and the loading that covers. So you've kind of got to build them up in a way that you're increasing their volume, increasing the type of terrain they're on, but also the strength and conditioning. So they're not getting injuries from overuse injuries by upping all that kind of workload. And you need to give them a decent amount of time to do it. It's no good if they go, I've got this in 4 weeks' time. It's like, well, you've got unrealistic expectations. I think that is the case with a lot of people, is managing expectations. Everyone is capable of doing something, that they set their mind to. So let's say when we went out to Namibia and did Beyond the Ultimate Desert, was it 250k, 5 days, long stage at the end, 90k. Considerations there for someone are, well, heat, 53 degrees, no one's used to that really, whatever country you're from. but particularly UK, you've got to do some heat training before you get out there, because otherwise you're going to cook. But that's easy. That's 7 to 10 days before you get out there. You can cover that off. It's really easy to cover. But the other side of it is the terrain, isn't it? Is making sure they've got the right footwear. Someone who doesn't know anything about ultras that picks you up, you've got to train them on what kind of footwear do they need. You know, something with a soft sole where those spikes going up from the trees, these 6-inch sort of spikes, they go right through into your foot. But the type of clothing you wear to try and keep you cool, the nutrition to try and carry it, because you're carrying all your food, all your sleeping stuff, everything that you need for that whole 5 days, you're carrying on your back, apart from water that you're given at the checkpoints. So, you know, they're clueless on all this equipment and what pack to use, let alone putting it on, making sure it all fits within that pack okay. You know, all these sort of things that to me, they become sort of part of it, and sort of something that, you know, like is a given. People with no background don't know all of this, so you've really got to break things down, really simplify stuff, and then see, depends on the level of client you get and where they're at with different things. And it's kind of, it's not just ultra runners, but I've had people that are now doing sort of forces selection and stuff like that, which, because I've got a bit of a background with the military, they kind of can relate that, well, you know, the basic military type of things, but then you can add in all this fitness, carrying a pack. Not necessarily the pack weight of what you carry in the military, but you're still carrying a decent pack. You're still going over all this rough terrain, and you're doing it really quickly. So there's a bit of crossover there. So I've picked up a few people like that as well. Which
I'm gonna dive into your military background in a bit, if that's okay, mate. And I think what I learned, at least from just my small experience, if you like, doing these events, is that it's the admin and the kit and the detail required around all that is, if anything, as much work as the actual volume of training, right? And I wish I was working with you actually before the desert, because I made a big error with footwear on that one as well. And you mentioned the military background there. I just want to kind of change gear a little bit and kind of rewind a little bit. So Jon Shields is not just the ultra runner, right? You've had a bit of a story leading up to where you currently are. We're actually filming this in Manchester, and I did a little bit of digging. And actually, when I was working at Man United just down the road, you were there apparently as a security guard, right? Working the director's box. So talk to me a little bit about the Jon, the character who led into the ultras, and what you kind of learnt from your security background and the paratroopers as well.
I guess going into the paras was an itch I wanted to scratch. So I went in later on. So, you know, a lot of lads in there would go in from 16 years old, 17 years old. And then, you know, they'd be fresh in there, 18 years old, down at Colchester, where I ended up being based after their training up at Catterick. And, you know, I did this is 4 years. I got medically discharged from nighttime parachute jump and smashed my ankle, broke that, damaged my knee meniscus, and then tore my labrum in the other hip. They couldn't fix me, which was frustrating. I did some time at Headley Court, which is their military rehab side of things. Got pretty frustrated with it, because you want to be in doing the sort of things, you know, that you've gone in to do. Unfortunately, at the time, Afghan was sort of finishing, so we were due to go on a deployment, but that didn't happen. Someone else went in the end, but then basically it was the pull-out. So nothing happened. So the only thing I ended up doing whilst in the military was the 2012 Olympics in London, when G4S screwed up. And that was good. It was fun.
Because you're in the parachuters for 5 years, right?
Yeah, well, I did a bit of sort of reservist stuff before going in full time within the paras. So yeah, it was 4 years.
What was talk to me a little about the culture then within there, and presumably that instilled a level of sort of discipline and routine, and it had an impact on you as an individual.
Yeah, it's difficult really, because I went in at a different stage of my life. I'd already had a personal training, strength and conditioning business that was going really well beforehand, and I'd had recruitment background, recruiting for businesses and bankers when I first left after my sports science degree from university. So going in, I found it very difficult because you're essentially, when you go in, you're a blank canvas if you're younger.
Right.
You know, you've not been...
Yeah.
They prefer you in younger because...
No scar tissue.
Yeah, you've not been... you've not had the worldly ways as such. You've not experienced all of that. Yeah, you go in, you're 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They've not had that life experience. They're very impressionable. So you can, pretty much mold them the way you want to do it, and they'll just be like, yes.
Yeah.
And, in some ways that's really good. In other ways, I don't think it's quite so good. I really struggled going in, having had that experience, and I was already doing some stuff. I'd done some stuff in men's health, men's fitness for a company called PhD Nutrition at the time. Yeah. So when I went in, they knew who I was. So I was like called, Men's Health. That's what they nicknamed me, was Men's Health in there, through training as well. So you're like, you go to Catterick, you turn up there, and these PTIs that are there, they know what you're doing and all that side of it from the background. So there's an air of expectation on you, but you get thrashed as well because anyone makes a mistake in training, you all pay for it. You're all referred to as Joe. That's everyone is called Joe.
Yeah,
it's just what you're referred as in there. And training's great in many ways, and I look back on it fondly. But at times you're like, this is bloody awful because they are building you up, but they're also trying to break you, quite rightly. It's the elite army force.
Yeah.
A lot of paras go on, do special forces and that side of things. So you've got to be very good. There's P Company, which is the physical test week, and it's seen as the hardest of the non-special forces training that there is out there. And again, that's we're all very proud of that. We're all very proud of the training and all the lads that do that. I've got my utmost respect because it's a tough week. But, like you say, going in for me was more difficult because I had my opinions. I wasn't quite so quiet with things if I didn't think things were right. There's definitely a culture of bullying that goes on, which I hate. I'm not a fan of that. And, I did have some issues where I sort of confronted people about that with some of the younger lads that are younger, impressionable. I don't like the fact that when they're, basically being bullied, it's not nice to see. And I've never been a fan of that kind of thing because, I've seen it from school, young age, from being at boarding schools, things like that, where, you've got older lads, them picking on younger lads, and you kind of, once you've seen it, experienced it, you don't like what you see. So I found that quite hard at times because, see, you're getting a load of people, alpha males, in one place, and the culture is usually on the weekend, you go out, you get pissed and have a fight and come back and try not to get arrested because then you end up on the shell or whatever and getting beasted for it. But, there's all sorts that goes on and stuff that did go on when you were there, and, people ended up in jail, people, for various things. And for me, I didn't drink when I was in there. Yeah. And that was, again, at the time, people didn't like that I would not go and put myself in those situations because I was old enough and smart enough to know that if I went out there, one wrong thing without my senses by getting drunk, one wrong punch thrown or taken, I could either be in jail or dead. And I'd had enough of that sort of stuff anyway. From then, while I was there, I was working on the doors as well. I'd done my sort of personal protection stuff anyway, and I'd worked on doors when I was at university in North Wales. Yeah. So English lad in North Wales, you get some, especially when you're a student and England are playing Wales in rugby or football. And then I did that in Birmingham, and Birmingham's probably one of the roughest places you could ever go to work doors, to be honest. Yeah. From working there, going back there in the military, and doing the doors there on weekends because I had a flat that I was renting out. And so...
What age are you at this point, mate? What?
28.
28?
Yeah, 28, 29. So, yeah, I would go back to my flat, which I was having to rent a room out because I couldn't afford the mortgage going into the training sort of salary that you got. But even when you sort of passed out of training to the basic soldiering wage, it was, you know, it was nothing. So I had to have someone on board. So I struggled to keep my place to go and do this, which people don't understand. You give up a lot to go and scratch that itch because you want to do something.
What was the end game? What was the vision at that point when you were? Because obviously the injury took you out, but that hadn't happened at this point. So, were you? Did you wanted to tour presumably and go out and
the whole thing was to go and have a tour under my belt, and that was devastating when I couldn't go and do that. I really wanted to do that, and that was kind of the whole goal. If I wouldn't have gone in if I knew that was going to be the case, and it was just how things worked out. I had a couple of stress fractures in both femurs in training, and that sort of battered me a while for, I can't remember how long it was, maybe a couple of months. But yeah, it was one of those things, again, can't happen. I sort of set a sort of 2-mile record at the time when I still had them. So it was frustrating because everyone wants to go in, they want to go on a tour because that's what you do, that's what you're training to do. That's, anyone who said they were going in and didn't want to do that, I'd be like, well, why are you wanting to go in? It's the goal. And I was always massively jealous of people who had been on there. It was kind of a badge of right to go in and go and do it. And the lads, and there's still some lads now who've got into ultra running actually, who've done it, and they've got their experiences, which, I think some of them have really struggled. And I saw a post, one of the guys the other day, and he was in at the same time as me, but he was in earlier. He was younger than me, but he obviously had that experience and been to Afghan and seen a lot of stuff, and a lot of them have struggled coming out, but some of them have done some really good things, the lads, as well, since coming out. So it's a massive credit to them with what they've seen, what they've suffered, and knowing that they've had some problems. Then they go and, have done really well, generally within the, fitness side of things. Not necessarily ultra running, but a lot of them doing ultra running, and not necessarily they're great at that, but they've turned their life around. They've got good coaching businesses and so on because of it. So, it is transforming. But the security side of it was interesting because I was doing all sorts. And after I'd got injured, I came out medically. Well, I started retraining.
Going back to the injury, mate. So. Was it a moment where, because it was a fall, right? That caused the injury that took you out of the paras? Yeah, it was. Was it an instant realization actually that this is over, or was it a case of some rehab and you could have potentially got back into it? Yeah, I mean, it was a nighttime parachute jump. I think it was about 900 feet at night. So the plan is you drop low so you don't get enough time in the air where you're going to get shot at, whatever. Yeah. So, and you drop very hard. It's not like a parachute jump where you pull your cord and it's a nice soft landing. This is a static line, so you're already having it deployed for you when you jump out the back of the plane. Kit's below you on a cord, and you're kind of just trying to listen to that. It gives you a split second to know when to brace because you can't see anything around you. There's no lights to try and gauge where your landing is. Yeah. You've literally trying to listen, then you brace, and you're supposed to roll in a particular way and everything like that. But so the parachute's not even deployed at that point? No,
it's deployed as soon as you go out the plane.
Okay.
It's on a static line, so it pulls. Got you. So you don't need to do anything like that. Yeah. But your kit goes below you, and that's you having to have a split second to then go into your roll and land, knees together, feet together, and try and roll to take away the impact, because I think it's right, but it's you're dropping at 20 feet a second, so I think that's the speed that you were dropping. So you hit with some force. You get it wrong, people break their backs, they break their legs. This is it, and it's actually allowed for. They allow for a certain percentage of casualties. But yeah, I didn't know that I would be out from that, and to be honest, I shouldn't have been out from that, and that's part of the frustration, is that there wasn't anyone skilled enough within the military to realise that actually it was a really fixable problem. Right. I did have a knee meniscus. I had keyhole surgery on that, which took some time, but it's fine. I've never had a problem with it since. Broken ankle. Well, I've had several of them through rugby anyway on the same side. I never have any problems with that either. So, they've never really been a problem since, once they were given the time to heal. The problem was this hip, that labrum tear that they diagnosed. I had a hernia repair, something called the David Lloyd procedure, which was essentially meshing in there. It wasn't a hernia, but it was the same procedure. But I then, wasn't fixed. It was still sort of there. I couldn't cycle. I could feel like this clicking. And so obviously I can't run. Anything lifting the hip was an issue. And I always felt like it was something that should be fixed.
Yeah.
You know, when you just know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm there doing the rehab and stuff, I'm like, this doesn't help.
What do you mean you just know? You just felt in your body?
I felt like it was tight.
Yeah.
You know, that was what I felt. It felt like it was a tightness, and this clicking was probably something like just flicking over a joint, you know, like it shouldn't have been there. And I tried to explain this, and generally the people, and I'm not being disrespectful, a lot of the people at Headley Court were rehabilitators. They weren't physios. They might be in on physio there. I'm struggling to remember, but a lot of them didn't seem to have that much experience or knowledge. And I think that they've probably lost a lot of people that could have been fixed, which is frustrating because they invest a lot of money into people to make them, you know, the soldiers that they're going to be. I went to a physio. I've been to a couple of physios. They weren't very good. And I went to this very good physio who I still see to this day, at his practice. And he fixed me within a couple of sessions. And it was basically a tight hip flexor. He loosened off the hip flexor. That problem seems to... I still suffer with it now.
How long after you were discharged did it get fixed then?
Oh, this was... I mean, I had the surgery and stuff, but it didn't help. But I went for years where I was just going to the gym. I didn't do any cardio. I was up at probably back up 15 and a half stone. And I was going to the gym, but, you know, I put weight on when I'm not exercising properly. And I could only do limited stuff. So I wasn't doing lots of leg training because obviously it was all getting affected, because even just sitting walking, it was awkward. I say I still get the issues now where that side tightens up more, but it's never been a problem like it was back then. I still have to work on it, stretch it, release it, but it was something that was pretty simple in many ways. 2 sessions with a physio, just releasing it. It's a very deep muscle to get into, but you know, that wasn't even looked at, and you kind of feel that what a missed opportunity. And it's very frustrating when I look back on that side of things, that, you know, it was something that could have been sorted, because you feel like when you're there as well, you're like faking injuries, you know, the last two you go, oh, he's not fixed, this, that, and he's playing for a medical discharge. You know?
Do you have any resentment for any of that experience, or are you able to just put it behind you?
I mean, it's frustrating at the time, because at the end of the day, I didn't go and sign up on a whim. I was 28 years old, and people, I think when they're in, they haven't had that. I gave up a hell of a lot to go in there. You know, I gave up a very good job that I had, built client base, you know, good physical fitness myself. I was doing duathlon, Great Britain age group, had qualified for the Worlds. I couldn't go to it. They wouldn't let me. You know, I was doing well within the fitness industry with supplement brands. So going in there, I gave up a lot, and obviously the wage. I had a flat. I then ended up having someone in my flat that I don't really want in there, but that was to pay the bills. So when you're then there frustrated by injury, there's no one more frustrated than me to have people, you know, potentially thinking you're in there and you're faking an injury because you're not getting better, where actually you're just hell of frustrated because you'd love to be better. And, you know.
Where were you at mentally then in that period, mate, when you're in between kind of being medically discharged and then fixed, if you like? Like, obviously there's a lot of frustration there, but
I screwed him.
I
screwed him. I went after the medical world and sort of got myself on a course, because they were fannying around. So I just put myself in a position where I got myself on a course, got them funding it, and I did my ambulance tech course, and then I pushed on to do my degree in paramedicine. So I got myself a different career, because I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to do anything fitness related again, and so on. So I did that. I did my security stuff as well. So I positioned myself that I wasn't going to be having a problem with, work afterwards and so on, and funding everything, because obviously you go out, you get chucked out, and doing really any pension I'm going to get is for, being in there for 4 years is going to be negligible, in whatever it is, 65, 70. I don't even know what it would be, but it's going to be pennies. So, I had to sort of look after myself in a way, going back to being self-employed. So I did a little bit of the security, maritime security, some personal protection stuff, did a couple of transits, one on a super yacht, one on a tanker, looked after a few people. Did the Man United stuff for a little while as well. But yeah, there was different things I did, and I did obviously the door work and stuff like that. So I had a ruck of experience in different environments doing different things. Experienced quite a lot from doing it as well. I've had some big stories from back in those days doing stuff. But I don't.
I'm going to stop you there, mate. You have to tell me about some of these stories.
Yeah. Well, doors in Birmingham, I said it's a dangerous place. I was shot at outside the Spearmint Rhino Extreme working there. Big sort of bullet marks in the back of the door there. I don't think it was targeting me. But, you don't know. I mean, I always used to have a bulletproof vest on.
Yeah.
And in the Arcadian, someone knife into the vest there one night again. That was just someone who was off their head on drugs. And
are you enjoying this at this moment?
Yeah.
This is like a buzz for you.
Yeah. It was I would go, and I'd be the odd one out in these places working away. I was probably the only white person working a lot of these doors. There was a lot of Asian guys, black guys, all friendly with it. But then the gangs around there as well. At the time, you had the Birmingham Zulus, which were football hooligans that obviously dabbled in other areas.
Yeah.
So they were always in the places I was at where I was working. And, you knew you had that uneasy relationship with them because you knew they could be a lot of trouble. And they were with some of the door. Some people got absolutely pasted, but then I kind of got on with them, but I got the respect from them as well at the same time.
Did you ever get into any scrapes yourself, or were you able to?
Yeah. Just other gangs, Burger Bar, Johnson's. A lot of them got locked up for what they were doing. But there was a lot of stuff not too long before that. There was a couple of girls murdered at New Year's. I can't remember, in Hockley anyway.
Right.
But there was stuff going on. Then they had some race riots in Birmingham at the time where I think there was a black girl who was raped by some Asians, and it kicked off some massive sort of gang wars in the areas. The police were out, riot police, horses. There was a lot of firebombing of places and stuff going on, and it was chaos. And I was obviously there at that sort of time. But yeah, I remember having a scrape with someone who was Burger Bar on Broad Street, and he was just hitting his girlfriend at in one of the bars. I was the only doorman on at the time, and he was downstairs in this place, and I just come on. They asked me to go down because he was just hitting his girlfriend at the time down there, and obviously stopped him doing that. He didn't like it. Tried to calm it down, but he was just saying, and then we ended up having a big ruck down there, and he said he was going to come back. I still remember now, I'm Timo from the Burger Bar, I'm going to come back and shoot you. It's fair enough. He did walk down the, I got the better of him. I got the better of him, but it was a tussle. Like, you was like, shit, this thing, you're on your own. You really are on your own. And these guys didn't mess around, and I assume he was, but you never know when people, if they're all talk and so on. But he went, and then like later on, he came walking past. I thought, oh, here we go. Is this going to be like one of this? But you're not going to show it.
Yeah.
And actually, when he come past, so I was like getting ready, and he just kept his head down and was like, you know what, I've won that battle. There's,
Where do you think that mindset comes from, mate? That the ability to control yourself in that situation?
I don't want people to see me in a way where they've got one over on me. Like, it's that if you give them the opportunity, it's like if you allow yourself to be bullied or allow yourself to show weakness, then that's how they capitalize on it. And
do you think that was something that you learned from an early age, or do you think that was a military thing?
Yeah, I think that was from probably school, and like I went to different schools to the kids in my local area when I was very young. I just remember being surrounded in a park across the road from the house and having to fight this one lad because I was at a different school to all of them. They used to be my friends, and then, you know, you were then all of a sudden positioned to have to fight.
Yeah.
And, what can you do? I mean, my dad came across at one point when he was back then, and he was like, "Are you coming home for tea?" And I couldn't go home until I'd done it, because, then it was one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're a double-hard bastard as well, basically.
No, I'd do anything for an easy life, a quiet life, and at the moment I live down a track out the way. Just driving into Manchester today stresses me out. Like, there's too many people. There's I've obviously lived in the city in Birmingham and stuff like that, but actually, over the last, I don't know, whatever it is, 10 years now, 10, 12 years, I've really, I love the countryside. I always have done, to get away from all the stress and all the noise, so to speak. I've got my dogs, I like to get out, go up Snowdonia or into Holland and just go and run. And that's, again, part of why I like running, is because you can switch off and I can go for hours without seeing anyone.
Yeah.
And, it's my favourite time is winter, because I don't see anyone. Like, the sheep get taken off the tops in Llangollen, where I am, and I can just let the dogs off. No worries about sheep coming out from the bracken or any of that. You don't see many people, so you can just go. I can put my headphones in for a change, and it's just great. Go and do really long runs.
I think some of that comes with age as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just this day and age. Like you always end up having to repeat yourself with things, whether it's work related or just you try and speak to the bank or this, that, the other. Everything's harder work than it used to be, and I hate all of that side of things. So if I can lock myself away and in the countryside, out the way, and not really not speak to people, the only time I really come out is to speak with yourself about stuff like this, or going on these races, which I class as holidays anyway, and start talking to people about running and the outdoors and people with that same sort of mindset and lifestyle. It's like, then I really come out of my shell again. But apart from that, I've kind of shied away from everything, unless I'm talking about that now, that I'm quite antisocial. So I put on one hand how many genuine friends I've got, probably half a hand, is that, because
quality over quantity,
and it's just proofs in the pudding with people as well, isn't it, and stuff. So it's
well, listen, mate, you finally recovered from the injury, and then well, first of all, can you put your finger on stuff that you learned during that period between being medically discharged and then fast forward into that moment where you're actually fixed? That was frustrating for you, I can tell that. But what did you learn about yourself during that period? Because that must have been really hard for someone who's into his fitness. Yeah, had a career in multi-discipline things, doing your duathlon, being in the military, being that guy, and then suddenly just kind of working yourself back. What did you learn during that period of recovery?
I think I'm grumpy. I get frustrated.
How do you deal with that stuff?
I think dealing with it for me was going and lifting in the gym, doing what I could do that physically allowed me to go and sort of do something to, like the endorphins, that side of things. So I couldn't run, couldn't cycle. So I'm going to bench press and become strong as I can and try and do things like that. But I guess I really threw myself into my work as well with the medical side of things. So I'd done my ambulance tech course, and then you needed hours to do that, to complete that. And then I was straight into a diploma in higher education, which got me my paramedic course. So I did that, was doing the hours working alongside that as well. So I was travelling down to London, I was in Essex as well. So I was working on the ambulances, I was working on the response cars. So I got my thrill.
So just throwing yourself into pretty much everything.
Yeah, and I got to thrash a response car around Essex and stuff, going to some good stuff. So that was my fix, was hammering it around, going to some stuff that I'd get to first, dealing with it, and that side of things. And then again, I pushed on to the degree level of the paramedic because that's where it was going. So I then skilled that. So I was doing a lot of studying, working a ridiculous amount of hours. And then, sometimes I had a Navara pickup truck at the time, and I was sleeping in the back of that in the depths of winter, going away for a month at a time down to London, sleeping in that. And then what I would do is I'd try and do some training and then shower at a pure gym and then get back working. And I'd buy my food at M&S and do that. And that was repeat. So regularly I'd just be parked in the ambulance station, sleeping in the back of that, and had a blow-up air mattress in the back with a hard top on. And, it was pretty freezing and stuff, a sleeping bag. But then I was quite happy. I'd just go into the ambulance station, eat my food in there, get a brew, have a flask, do that, and then, do your shift, repeat. It was all right.
And when you first got back into running, it wasn't as if you went in at doing park runs and 10Ks and marathons. You went straight into ultra.
Yeah, not been a roadrunner.
So what was that? What was that first race that you did, and how did that all come about?
So I think from memory, the first race I did, because I just started running along the canal, and very quickly first week I went and did a marathon with the dogs, just because it was so good to be back running, and just thought I can keep running. Road racing doesn't appeal to me. I've not really done any of that. And I think the first one I did was a 33 miler, and it was a looped race. So you did a number of, I can't remember how many miles in a loop. I think it was something like a 6 mile loop or something like that. It was god awful race, ridiculous, terrible terrain, just through fields with that. I was this is so boring. And I did all right at that. I think I might have come third in it, something like that. But I'm all right at this, so maybe that's all right. But it was not steep or anything like that. It was just really sort of low budget ultra. Somewhere I think it was Leicester way or something like that. And then I thought, right, I want to do a 100 miler, and I still speak with Hughes, got the Penlin ultras and stuff, and I went and did that, and it started so well. I thought, I'll just go off and run with a guy who's one of my best mates now, and we'd never met before that race. But I ended up running with him for probably the first 40 miles. My feet fell apart, literally, because no experience. Got these poles I didn't know how to use, everything, chafing myself, and everything's like that. I just remember hobbling around. It was on beaches as well as coastal, so your feet were really getting screwed up wet through fields.
This is you fucking around to find out.
Yeah. This was me wanting to get 100 miles under my belt. There was no, I was no idea about running at that point, so it wasn't anything about going for a post. Just I want to get 100 miler under my belt. Yeah, just you don't usually go and do that straight away, do you? It's not really normal. You'd think go and do a 50k, John. Go and do 100k. No, not John. John's on go. I don't know. My watch failed. The battery had gone because obviously got the power settings wrong, so I didn't know where I was, and I ended up tagging along with this person, and it was then hanging on my poles to try and take the pressure off my feet that had just no bottom to my feet at all because they were all just blistered and manky. I just remember the final trudge across the sand, this massive death march. And it was so painfully slow and awful. I can't remember how long it took me. It's 28, 30 hours or whatever. And consider it had gone well for 40 miles or whatever. And then the wheels massively came off. But God, I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks after that. Literally so damn painful. And I've probably done it a couple of times since where I've been in that state. But, you certainly learn from it and find out is that, it was awful. But then after that, I just started getting into. Well, I
remember before the Desert Ultra, you might not have been on the call, but there was a call with Adam Kimball, the race director, who is an amazing athlete himself.
Yeah,
I think
he is. Fourth at Badwater recently, fourth fastest time ever, and he still came fourth. Got it for him.
Incredible athlete. Yeah. And I remember asking Adam on that call, what's the most common mistake that you've seen a newbie, i.e. me, make at this type of event? And he said, I remember as clear as day, he said, whatever you do not go out too fast on that first day. The other memory that I've got, John, is that first day at the start line and me remembering what Adam has said and then just seeing you just go fucking flying almost like, it must have been like my 5K PB time on day one of the Desert Ultra. So how do you get from kind of trudging your way around that first ultra that you did and feeling horrific to then turning up at these events and being able to perform like you do? Like what was the process to get you from A to B?
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, the theme here, right?
Yeah, I don't know. You sort of go off at a pace, and you either can maintain it or you blow out, and it's kind of sort of figuring that out as you go. Like, have I gone off too hot here? Have I gone off? Can I keep pushing? How hard can you push? You get a bit of a rest at a checkpoint if you're going to fill your water up, But a lot of it is fueling, being confident with how you've trained beforehand, knowing what you can handle. Have you done the heat training? Have you done, everything you can? I kind of know what I can generally run at on a treadmill for a certain amount of time, or if I'm out on another ultra. So you kind of go with it thinking, well, I've done the heat training. I'm used to carrying the pack, so I can probably go at this pace, but I don't know. We'll soon find out. And, I think that there's a lot of sort of thing that a lot of people don't push themselves hard enough, or they don't go as hard as they could. And that I was speaking to this with a lady the other day, and she was disappointed because she, although she finished the race in the Gobi, felt that she'd let herself down because she knew she was running on that final day and she could run and she walked the day before and stuff. So she felt like she hadn't done herself justice.
You want to empty the tank completely.
Exactly. You want to finish knowing that you've given it your all and stuff. And for me, it's that, well, if you've got the ability to and an injury is not stopping you, you want to know that you've given it your all. And, so for me, if I go off a little bit harder, or I can always dial it back slightly. You might sort of cause yourselves issues down the line if you have gone off too hot, but I kind of generally know I can dial it back a little bit. Or same on the other side, if you feel pretty comfortable, well, I can just ratchet this up a little notch and we'll see, and then go from there. So it's that always little tweaks that you can be doing during the start. But I always like to go off quite well, because then it sets the tone. You're right, I'm in this now, this is what I'm doing. Right, does anyone want to come and try and find out with me? Because that's good, because we'll destroy them. And then, that mentality for me is like, if I go off at this pace, if someone's going to follow me, then maybe they're going to be a good runner, maybe they're going to be a good challenge here, and then we can go and have a bit of a war and see who's got the balls to try and keep going and run each other out. And we'll either all blow up, or, they'll blow up or I'll blow up, but at least we'll know where we are after day one. And, you get your bit of a pecking order then and so on. But
it's just a different strategy. I mean, it's such a different strategy, I guess, for the longer the race is, right? Because the less you know how I guess it's almost like a negative split, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or a positive split that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and depending on the races, it varies. I mean, there's no sense going off. If it was a long race, like when we belted off day one, or was that about 50k or something like that? So that's a short race for me. That's a short day. It's day one, but plenty of recovery. Go again for a further 5 days. 90k the final day. Well, if you're in a good position anyway, you're going to be okay. But if you're doing something that's a couple of 100 odd miles, there's no sense going off like that. You might as well just take it easy and sort of go off at a pace that you're comfortable with, and you don't need to go off like that. Whereas if it is a competitive race, you need to go off like that. So it does differ between races, whether it's a stage race, whether it's a self-sufficient race, or whether it's a long, just a continuous race. So there are different strategies for different races, but
you're obviously doing something right, mate.
You're dictated to by the competition that's around you as well, and who else goes off at what pace. And it just depends who's there, what their background is, because that some people are always going to go, and they're pretty reliable at the pace they'll go. That they're probably going to hold that pace, or you might look at someone and go, they're not going to hold that pace, so I'm all right sitting here for now. But it's just sort of all a bit of a see who's there, what everyone else is doing, and then being confident with what you're capable at with your level of fitness at that time. Because obviously you can always be, like for me, my fitness levels, depending last 6 months, in my eyes, have been absolutely shocking. I've not been at 50%, but I've still been able to go out and do some reasonable stuff. The injury's still obviously there because I've just stopped recently in a race because of that, but that was to not injure myself and go further, because I injured myself by going too far and pushing and that side of things. So I didn't think I'd break myself as well as I did.
Yeah.
So it's meant that the most recent race I've deliberately called it very quickly because I didn't want to then put another 6 months of sort of poor training together to then go to some races I want to do really well at and be disheartened again because I feel like 50%. So,
well, you're doing something right, buddy, and I think I'm going to ask you about China in a minute, but I think I might get some of this wrong, but you've won every BTU race on the series, so the Highland, the desert, the ice, the jungle, the mountain, right?
Yeah.
You've won the Brenning Way 50, the Penny Winter Ultra 50,
yeah,
the Snowdon 50.
Yeah.
You've won the Summer Spine Challenge. You've completed the full spine race.
Yeah. Sprint as well.
There's probably more that I've not listed. At the time of recording this, you've just got back from the Gobi Desert Ultra in China. Before you correct me on that list, and before we find out what happened in China, I need to talk to you a bit more about mindset, because to get to that level, there's something going on here, Jon, for you to be able to consistently reach that level of performance. So how do you personally define mindset? What's going on to help you with that in the head?
I think mindset is different for different people, but for me, I say it's always what's the challenge, what's the goal, and I'm very process driven. I think, well, how am I going to beat the people that are going to be there? Well, usually it's about work rate. Mm-hmm. So if I outwork the competition, generally I'm going to be there or thereabouts. Anyone can run. It's a fact. But a lot of you will see, like, a lot of results are dictated just by work rate. Yeah. How hard everyone works, and you'll probably get a fairly proportionate sort of, or realistic, saying that the person who comes first probably has worked harder than everyone. Yeah. Second, third, fourth, and work it all the way back. And you'll probably find that generally translates quite well. Yeah. So if I think, if I outwork everyone, then it's going to put me up there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't guarantee me a win because obviously injuries, illness, whatever. Yeah. But if I work harder than everyone, I've got a chance. Yeah. Doesn't allow for talent and all that side of things. So, I might weigh 81 kilos at the moment. I'll get lighter for my next races and stuff. But if I've got someone I'm racing against who's 58 kilos, 62 kilos, which is often the kind of people I'm racing against, I have all of a sudden got to move a lot more weight, particularly on like the larger climbs, the steeper climbs, which is where I noticeably struggle against those type of athletes. If it's more rolling hills, then I'm in the game still. But when you go steep, it's a lot of extra weight to haul your ass up there. And the mindset for me is, well, I've got to play to my strengths. So how am I going to beat those people? How am I going to be more competitive? It's all right putting the work in, but you've also got to be smart with how you work. So if I need to work on the mountain or the real steep stuff, that's what I've got to go and do. Because if that's their advantage, I've got to nullify that. If they're from a hot country and I'm from the UK, that's a problem, because if the race is in a hot place, they've got an advantage over me. Mm-hmm. So how do I deal with that? And the way I've dealt with that recently, although the desert was bloody freezing, I might add, which frustrates the hell out of me, because I was in a sauna an hour every damn night. Every night, an hour from the sauna, from Kenya. Before Kenya as well, when I raced in Kenya, at least that was quite hot, 34, 36 degrees, whatever. I felt the benefit of the heat there, but I continued that on to Gobi, which was like a month later, and I didn't miss any sauna sessions, and I was in there an hour every time, and it was supposed to be an average of 28 degrees in the Gobi during the day and drop at night, but it was never hotter than about 16 degrees during the day, and it was bloody freezing at night as well. So I thought, I feel cold as well because I'm so used to the heat training. But so the mindset is, right, I've got to tick the boxes, not just outwork people, but then do things that minimise.
You talk about two things. You talk about work rate.
Yep.
And you talk about talent.
Yep.
Right. So when it comes to talent in ultra running, Are you talking there about the attention to detail, the tactics, the strategy, the training block in advance? Because sometimes it's difficult to define talent in the context of an endurance effort, right?
Yeah.
Where does talent play out for you in that?
To me, talent is someone that's been a good runner at school. You know, they've just been able to do it. They
So
can
it's the
turn
form
their
of
hand to it.
the way they move their body, the
Yeah.
form of it.
I was a little fat kid at school, and I would hide when cross country was on, and I'd pop out the woods at the end, like at last, just because I hated running, didn't want to do it, and I was terrible at it. Unless you had a rugby ball in my hand or was playing football, then it was fine.
Yeah.
I'd run and be happy. But you know, there's always those kids that you remember at school that were fast, that could do the 800 meters, 1500 meters, and they were really quick. That wasn't me. So if people continue that kind of performance and then they run, you know, when everyone goes through sort of their teenage years, they start drinking this, that, the other. Some people will maybe continue it on, but you'll get people that are naturally good and can run a 10K a lot faster than someone else.
Yeah.
So these people that have got talent or have been nurtured through, you know, fell running and through club running, and they've continued that. And they've obviously got some raw talent. If someone can run a certain time, they've got talent. And it's not because they're maybe better prepared. You know, talent is something that you've naturally got, basically. You've got the genetics, the side of things, you've got off your parents. You can naturally run really quite well compared to someone else with same genetics, same amount of training, but someone will go far better than the other person. So I always think that talent is someone that can turn up to an ultra and they could have done less work and still outperform the average people. They might not win it, but you can see that the talent's there. That they've got a certain amount of talent for what they actually do and put in.
Yeah.
However, work rate is someone that's very average that wouldn't beat that person usually.
Yeah.
But then because they put so much work in, they do the sessions, they do the strength work, they prep their kit. That all, to me, comes in work rate. That's the attention to detail. It's nothing to do with the talent. But if they do all that, they might beat this individual that's got the talent. But then if that person with talent has then got a work rate, then that talent's always going to win.
Yeah.
You know,
So
work rate gets you so far.
Yeah.
You know, but your natural ceiling is your weight.
Yeah.
So I can't ever be 58 kilos. I can't be 62 kilos. I might be able to get to 73 kilos as a race weight, but there'll be a bit where my performance becomes affected. If I go too low, I'll lose power. So, you know, realistically, probably about 73 kilos, say something like that. That's what I could get to. Probably be my optimal, I guess. So 73, 75. But that's what I've got. I'm never going to be 58, 62. So I'm never going to be as fast as some of these people up the steepest stuff because physics, you know, is just what it is. I can minimize that, and then maybe I can trash them on the down slopes. Maybe I can outrun them on the flatter stuff. Maybe I can get my nutrition better. Maybe I can avoid injuries. Maybe my strength training with carrying a big pack on my back. All that stuff comes into consideration. But there's certain things, whatever, with my genetics, I'm not going to be able to do as well as someone else. So they're more talented than me at that. My work rate can bring that up, but I've only got a certain amount of talent within the field I'm in. So
where do you place willingness to suffer in all of this? Because I think that's got a big role to play in it, right? So work rate, talent, I totally get what you're saying there. I also think that what you do, Jon, you must have a high tolerance to be able to suffer. You know, there's going to be moments in these races, presumably, whereby you've got negative self-talk going on, you're fucking tired, you're hungry, you're in that victim mentality, and you just want to fucking stop. So
every damn race.
So where does that willingness to suffer come into it for you as an individual?
I think, like you say about the negative mindset and talk, it's always there. It is literally always in my head. Every race, you've got like that devil and the angel there talking one side to the other, one side to the other. And it's bad. I can't keep going. She's like, shut up, keep going. And I'll often talk to myself or shout at myself and, you know, all these types of things. Or I've put some music in my ears because I'm sick of myself. Just all of this stuff. Or you're pushing and you're wondering, can I hold that pace with that someone? And the suffering aspect that comes with that is kind of a bit as like, you know, I know I can suffer for this. I know I can do this. I know I can do that. I've previously suffered in other races. So I know I've got it in the locker. I can go to the hurt locker. I've got it there. I'm in the pain cave, hence why the brand.
Yeah.
You know I can do it. There's a time and a place to suffer as well, and when you can do it. But I don't enjoy it because the suffering and stuff, that negative self-talk is always there. Everyone has the negative self-talk. It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it because it'll always creep in a race. It will always creep there, and it'll be like, oh, you could walk now a bit, couldn't you? Or just take a little bit longer at this checkpoint, or, you know, this, that, or you're not going to catch them, or, you know, or they're going to catch you that's behind you now. You can see them behind you. And, you know, all these negative little talk. But then, you know, often I find like that is always going to be there. You're always going to have that. If someone doesn't have any of that, I find it hard because I've always had that. But then it pisses me off. It really pisses me off because I hate that weak side of me that's giving me that. So I'm like, you ain't going to get me. You ain't going to beat me. Yeah, you need to shut up. And just to prove it, there was one thing someone, like on the spine race when I did suffer, and so you get these messages on the spine race and people can read them. It's just a generic thing that, you know, they say don't swear, this, that, the other, stuff will be removed. But so at the point I was suffering, so I'm like, I'm loaded up on codeine and falling asleep because I can't keep my eyes awake because I'm on these painkillers.
Yeah.
And I'm sleeping in the public toilets, I'm sleeping in a church, I'm sleeping on the side of the road, I'm just sleeping wherever, but I'm going to complete this damn thing. I remember someone going, and it was the best motivator ever, because anyone who says I can't do something, or anyone that, you know, doesn't think I can achieve or believe or would love to see me fail, that's my motivation. And someone said on one of these messages, my mum goes, oh, someone's put a message on there saying, I hope you fail, from the #1 Jon hater. I was like, that's exactly what I need. Brilliant. I just remember being like, right, this is getting done. There was no hint. Like, I was feeling sorry for myself, and I heard that. I was like, thank you.
You got that message whilst you're on the race?
Yeah. It was just like, I think it's like a couple of people who could be. Generally, I'm all right.
Those guys from the doors in Birmingham, mate.
But you know what? It was the perfect time, because I was just like, oh, really? Well, that's good. And it was just the motivation I needed, because there was no way I wasn't going to get around that and everything. Then as soon as I heard that, I was like, you're having it.
That's interesting.
You're having it. Thank you very much. But yeah, and it was one of those things, like I knew it was suffering doing it, but I didn't think I would have had as long issue as I had from it to now, like that it was still plaguing me now. It's like, was it worth it? And then I just think about things like that. Oh, yeah, of course it was. Yeah. Of course it was. You know what? I might have just DNF'd at Gobi, but it was on my terms, and I stopped myself from injuring myself even more. I've been out running yesterday. I've been out running today. Yeah. I can still run. It's that time factor, how long you're running on the descent. So, like, you know what? I'm no worse than what I was. Like, actually, I had some good massages out there, improved, and keep my fitness up now. I know I've got the spine sprint north coming up, and then I've got Costa Rica. I need to be fixed, particularly by Costa Rica. I can get through the spine being on, you know, because it's not the same level of descent, which caused me the problem. But
so just for the listeners, mate, you got back from China a couple of days ago, which was a big race that you wanted to target, right? And not the outcome that you're aiming for.
Yeah,
you DNF'd, right?
Yeah, so I would say it was a big race I wanted to target. I knew it wasn't going to be. Okay. So, like, I'm actually okay with the DNF because it was on my terms. I just said it was like, I kind of knew. I'd spoken to physio before going out, and I'd seen a couple of different physios, still under the umbrella of the really good physio that I mentioned. They were all happy that structurally the knees are okay. Like I had said, I've got patella tendonitis, which obviously was from the spine, and from what we just mentioned, that and probably Cape Wrath just before it that had triggered it.
Yeah.
So training had been pretty poor since, by my standards, there's not been very much volume. I'd been cycling and indoor cycling and stuff like that, doing my strength work, doing what I could. I did race in Kenya, a 5-stage multi-day, but again, I was very much 50% where I was or what I could be. Did all right, got second, but I was aware of my knees the whole time I was out there.
Yeah.
Rolling hills, nothing too steep though, and so that was kind of my training block for Gobi. But my concerns were, how am I going to be at about 12 hours and then on a big descent? And lo and behold, got to that sort of time, then a big descent, and I just started to really feel them for, right, this isn't going to go away. You know, I've got a couple of big races at the start of the year. If I continue to suffer now, I mean, I was in a good position. I was running with my good friend Javixa, and he ended up finishing second. I think we were both third at the time when we were running together. And we were comfortable. It was comfortable. But he'd had a brilliant training block. He was in awesome condition and shape. So I knew, sort of about work rate and stuff. He worked really hard. And for me, I had no right to really be in the same conversation as him from what I know I'd done. Yeah, we ran together, but at the top of the altitude, the climb, it was obvious his fitness was far better than mine because near the top of the steep climb, he's 58 kilos. I wasn't. And, he's sort of there, but he's such a nice guy. I actually waited at the top and stuff, and I said, but just go, mate, because this isn't going to go well here. And then the descent, followed him for a little while, and then knees were just... And then, so I knew pretty quickly after that, when I got onto the bits that then would be more runnable, my knees weren't running too well. But I was still, far ahead of another professional runner behind, who probably would have been 40 minutes behind. Got to a checkpoint, he was still 20 minutes behind, but then we left together. He'd won Swiss Peaks this year. Great athlete. So it's kind of like, even at that point, I can still be in the mix there with having bugger all proper training. So it's really encouraging. In a way, it's like, this is frustrating, but I know I can go back there next year. I know I've got, if I want to go back, I can. So I probably will, because I don't like leaving a bad race. But
do you believe in that theory then, John, that with ultra running and endurance sports in general, that you kind of build an engine over time? And regardless of maybe having a few months off or picking up an injury, I'm not saying that you ever pick up where you left off, but there's an element of kind of learned experience within the way that your body's adapted over time to get you to a point where if I put in a training block, I can get back quickly to a level that I was at previously. Do you believe in that as a principle? Yeah,
absolutely. I think your training does mount up over time, so you've got sort of the muscular endurance, but the mental side of it as well is massive. That can you keep running for a certain period of time without stopping? And I can run at whatever pace. It might not be as fast as I could do if I was in top form, but I know I can still move at a certain pace. I still know procedures, how to fuel, how to do all that side of things, and I'm confident with my ability. And if I cycle or do whatever I can and keep in some sort of shape, I know that realistically, if you give me 8 weeks of proper training, I can be in pretty good shape. Ideally, I'd want maybe, if I had a good base, 12 weeks would be ideal. If I needed a bit longer, 16 weeks from a lower level of fitness, but sort of get me around that, I know I can be in really good shape quite quickly. And that's kind of what I'm banking on now with the lead up to the winter spine. It's sort of middle of October now. November, December, January. So I've got 3 months, add in a little taper. So say sort of 10 weeks or so of proper training. I've got to manage these knees at the moment, but I can do quite a lot. I can increase the volume. I can avoid the descents. I can do my rehab exercises that I'm doing. I'm running the dogs in the morning a little bit now, just like low level, dogs on lead, trying not to get them tripping me over or pulling me over, stuff like that. But it's just like what I would class as more like recovery runs, but it's loading the knees in a way that doesn't do it too much. Then I'll do some treadmill stuff, do some inclines there. Then I'll go and do my longer days, and then I'll do a lot of volume on the bike, do the strength and conditioning, just keep working away at the physio side of things, those exercises, and hope they just gradually keep improving, because they're better than what they were. I'm not in any worse of a position than I was. I still ran 66 miles or probably 60 miles, and whatever at altitude with a pack on and so on. So there's a generic level of fitness there. I could have walked it and finished 5th, but that's not what I wanted to do. I had enough time in the bank to be able to do that, and that's just not how I want to finish a race. So we'll do a race generally, unless I'm buggered. And, you know, like the Spine race is great recceing, and I always, with the Spine, it's a local race. It's a UK institution, isn't it? It's a fantastic race, and Montaigne sponsor it as well. So, you know, for me,
big one for you.
For me, I want to do those people proud as well, you know. So, I don't take it for granted that I can run, people can't.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I was just like, oh, I'll get a place in this race anyway, I'm not paying for it, and, you know, then I just pull out, it's a bit disrespectful. You know, if I don't give it my all in those races like that. Going into Gobi, I say, I've never dropped out of a race so easily in my life, but I was comfortable with the decision, and I knew it was something I was happy to make, and I was good with that. The only time where I felt sorry and sad and upset was the ceremony at the end. Like, because as much as I liked seeing the lads do well, there's that thing of, I should be there.
Yeah.
I know I'm capable of being there.
Yeah.
And then the fact they call the warriors out who failed, and then it was like a couple of us, I was like, got up there, and like, you're up there, and everyone stood up, and you're like, oh, basically, you've just told you failed. Like, it's like, you didn't like that, did you? I was like, no, it's not what we really do in our culture, because basically you just go, oh yeah, never worry, you just shit. But so, but then I did feel a little bit like upset and sorrow and that, but then it gives me that burning desire again not to experience that again. So it means just actually, I've always taken opportunities because you don't know what they'll bring. So going there half fit, I've been offered this opportunity to race there. You know, for me as an athlete, getting invited to races that aren't my sponsors now, it shows they've recognised that you've got some talent or you're quite good at this. So it was nice to have that offer. If I look back on it and say, yeah, I shouldn't have raced. I know I shouldn't have raced. But, you know, what if? There's always that what if. You know, if I hadn't done it, but what if it had gone okay? Yeah. And that's the problem. I always think, what if? Yeah. You know, it's like after Cape Wrath going to do the full Spine. Yeah. Crazy. 400k race to another 460k race, whatever. What if? And it nearly went perfectly because I was flying in the Spine, and maybe. Yeah. You know, if the feet hadn't gone into Cape Wrath, it would have been a perfect build-up for it. It would have been brilliant. But yeah, it's that sort of side of things where I think, I shouldn't have raced it. But I've met people out in Gobi now. I've met the organisers. I've got one of the head of marketing from that event coming out with me. Well, they live in France, but they're coming over to Amsterdam for the International Running Expo. So I've already made connections with them now. And moving forward, go back to the race, go to their race that they want to put in the Middle East. Yeah. You know, I've met a couple of footwear brands out there. All these people, the races I've not met in the past. I've made some good friends out there. I got to run with my buddy for 60 miles as well, that he lives in Serbia, and we know each other and stuff. So we've got closer. Yeah, we're going to do some runs together. I'm going to support him across race across Scotland next year.
The more you say yes to things, the more things come your way, mate.
Exactly. I mean, I might get a disappointing result, but then they at least have tried. You know, if I didn't try, I'd think, what if? And, you know, some people will never try, or they're too scared to have that. And it sucks having those results. But at the end of the day, for me, it's always given me that burning desire to not let it happen again and think, well, you know what, these things will happen. Yeah. But how am I going to bounce back from that? That shows more character than avoiding racing or, you know, never putting yourself in that position because you're too scared to go and do that, or you'll only go to local races because you know you'll win them instead of going and racing the top competition. Or I want to race all the best people. I don't care if I come 15 for whatever, but if I've raced the top people, then when you look back on that list and go, they were a good run, they're a good run, they're a good run, it adds more weight to it. It's like Dragon's Back when I came fourth last year in it. Yeah, you look at the field there, the guy who won it is probably one of the best ultra runners of all time, who's got the biggest variation in running from just missing out on the American Olympic marathon team, a marathon time of like 2 hours, 12 minutes or something silly, or something like that, to being a 100k American champion, and then, you know, all these different things. An adventure racer, wins Dragon's Back, past winner of Dragon's Back there, and then another American who's finished top 10 at like Leadville and professional athlete, and then there was me, and then a guy who was third the couple of years earlier, and then a guy who dropped out who's won the Arc 50 and Arc 100 in previous things. And you think, what a lineup that is. Cape Wrath, I'm the second fastest person over the Cape Wrath route. And it was only good enough for second because Marcus Scotney came back and he'd won it in the first ever year, 10 years earlier. And he happened to have a really good race and was in really good form again. Like I say, it would have been nicer if we could have had a proper race. He suffered towards the end, but I obviously suffered as well. It was a couple of hours apart between us at the end. But the guy who was winning it the year before ended up coming third, hunting me down, and I only had a few minutes on him at the end because he had DMV the year before when he was winning comfortably. Mm-hmm. Great runner. Guy who came fourth has just won race across Scotland. So, you look at the fields of people that you've raced against, I'd much prefer not to win and race in a field like that than win and there was no one. For me, it's your hard work, your discipline, your training is then validated by when you race.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Listen, I'm going to wrap this in a minute, but I think there's one final question for you, if that's all right. So on the coaching side, we're going to be working together over the next few months, which kind of scares me a little bit after this conversation. I'm not going to lie, right? The goal is going to be hopefully to get me to the finish line of a few events next year, including the Jungle Ultra, which is one of the events that you've won. What bit of advice would you have for anyone listening to this who's an amateur, who's thinking about getting into pushing themselves a bit further than what they have been doing into maybe the first ultra or the first multi-stage?
You've got to sign up, because when you sign up, that's when you feel the fear. But you've got to do it anyway then. You sign up, that's that commitment. Once you've got that commitment, it scares you into actually acting on it. So whether you find yourself a coach or whether you're going to then just start training yourself because you don't want to go out there and either waste your time or not enjoy it because you've not done any training. You're going to enjoy it more if you've done some training and you know that you can basically handle the event or think you can. At least you're going to challenge yourself. No one goes to these events knowing they're going to complete it. But if you feel that you're happy with your training and you've kick-started that because you've actually signed up to a race or a challenge, it's how you learn, it's how you develop and how you grow as a person, but it's also that's how everyone else has started. Everyone else, doesn't matter if you're Killian Jornet or whoever, Tom Evans, they all started by pressing a button to sign up on a race, and they learned just like we did, and then that's where they've started from. So everyone starts at the same place. So you start by actually signing up to something, which then I think for me it kickstarts that bit of a sort of a contract with yourself. It's like, right, we're doing this now. What are we going to do about it? Right, this race has got this much elevation. It's got this much time on feet looking at previous results. It's got this weather. What kit do I need? What kit list? And it starts you looking at it a little bit more, and then you start putting the pieces together. You go out there and then you learn from it. You either have a horrendous time and never do an ultra again, or you have a brilliant time with type 2 fun and think, actually, I really love this, but you know what? I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to learn. And, then you start signing up for more things. And that's usually how it goes, is people then start signing up again and again and again for different things, and they learn and they love it.
Awesome. On that note, Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Nice one. Thank you.